All right, so I've gotten the question a few times how I set up my guitar tones, and today I'm going to talk about that. I'll talk about my lead tone, rhythm tone, clean tone, how I came about to setting them up. I'm completely self-taught. I'm not a pro audio engineer by any means, so if you're already making album quality stuff, maybe this won't be too useful, but if you're looking to get started making your own guitar tones, hopefully this will be a helpful resource. One of many as you're researching on creating your guitar sound. I'll be using this Ibanez RG550 Genesis. It's stock aside from the potentiometer knobs on there, but I'm not sponsored by Ibanez or Neural DSP or anyone. So with that being said, let's get started. Alright, so first my rhythm tone. What is the purpose of this? This is a heavy metal distortion tone used for rhythm guitar and riffing. I wanted the tone to be relatively full but still work with a distorted bass. And the goal here wasn't to be any kind of super modern sounding tone either. So how did I get it? Well, I'm using Archetype Nolly X and I'm not sponsored by Neural DSP. It's just what I have. It's just what I'm using. And I start by using some compression and 2 overdrives actually. I started with one, the green overdrive, and I did the green overdrive trick. You know, where you turn the drive down and the tone all the way up. And I started with a tone that had a lot of treble, maybe less mids, some bass. And I used this tone on my Dr. Wiley's Castle cover, hence the name, Wiley Rhythm. Now though, I have the mids up to almost 2 o'clock. And for the bass, I used to have the bass dialed down, but these days I like it dialed up more. I really like how it sounds in combination with the bass. And the treble I've dialed back. I did used to have the treble up higher, same with the lead guitar that we'll talk about next, the lead tone. But these days I have it dialed back. For microphones, I'm using the Dynamic 57, as in the program here. I'm not actually miking up a cab with the 57, I'd get evicted so fast. As for what I'd improve, I'm always iterating and making adjustments. And what's important when you do that is to not make adjustments in isolation, but do it in a mix in the context of your song. With plugins, that's pretty easy because you can play it back, adjust it on the fly, then play it back again, and it's already been changed. You can make a good starting point in isolation, but just be sure the final settings work with the song you're trying to put out. Now the lead tone, and I've done a lot of iterations here. This is my High Z lead 5/4. The purpose of this tone, of course, is to be a lead guitar tone, distorted, lots of delay, reverb, just good distorted guitar things. So getting this tone, I'm using the Archetype Nolly X again, and I've gone through a lot of trial and error with this one. I started with a lot of mids, scooped the mids away, and now I'm back to having some mids. I have them set around 1 o'clock. Also new to this iteration is I've dialed the highs back. I've been experimenting with how much delay to have with this preset, because I don't want so little that it sounds super dry, but I don't want so much that delay is the only thing you hear. Now the post EQ, I do have a bump around 1.5 kilohertz and a scoop centered around 400 hertz. I'm low passing at 12.2 kilohertz, just in the spirit of rolling treble back. Beyond that, I have a little compression and I'm using the green overdrive. And then microphones, it's the Dynamic 57, but also the Ribbon 121. Now, what would I improve? A constant struggle for me has been whether the tone has too much treble, too like sharp sounding, or too woody, too much mids. So I keep going back and forth with these. Iterations over time have gotten me closer to what I'm looking for, but it's a constant cycle of learning, improving, changing things. Repeat, repeat. Now, the clean tone, and for the clean tone, I want it to be mellow, MIDI, not too woody, but I want it to be more laid back, more chill. I use the clean guitars as a low energy section for my songs. I've got the, the distorted rhythm stuff, I've got the leads, and then when I want to bring the energy down lower, then I throw in the clean guitars. So that's the purpose of this tone that I'm using. So how did I get it? I started with the clean tone in Archetype Petrucci, so we're using Petrucci this time, not Nolly. I basically just kept adding mids. I never really changed the post EQ, so it's a little bit confusing, and I think it could be optimized, but hey, the tone's been working, so why change it? For the EQ on the amp, I started with a scoop tone, but of course kept adding mids. And naturally, there's compression, delay, and reverb. Now the mic models, they're the condenser FET 301, and the ribbon VR2, and these are left over just from whatever setting I started with. So what would I change about this tone? As I said, it's been working, so I'm not looking to change it at this time, but if I really wanted to sit down and work on it, maybe I'd bring the post EQ more in line with the amp EQ. I'd have to go through several iterations of that, because of course that's going to change how it sounds, and I want it to be relatively the same to what it is now. Now, what guitar tones do I use for practice? Now, usually I'll match the tone to what I'm practicing for, but I'll take some things away to make it more difficult. Like if I'm practicing a clean part, I'll take away the compression, same with the leads too. I'll take away the reverb and the delay just so it's super dry, I can hear any mistakes. Sometimes when practicing leads, I will use a clean tone instead of the distorted tone, but what you want to watch out for is you want to make sure you're practicing good muting technique too. So you do want to have the distortion, I find, dialed up to help with that. Otherwise, you have to basically relearn it again. If you learn bad habits playing it clean, you're letting some things ring that you might not necessarily hear without distortion. Just got to keep that in mind. All right, so some overall thoughts. These are tones I've mainly shaped through trial and error. I'm not a professional audio engineer. I'm not recording other bands, but I am putting out my own stuff. I think it sounds okay. So hopefully this is a good source of information if you're looking to get started too. One thing I've found is that I'm always iterating with these tones, except for my clean tone. Somehow I like it a lot, but I'm always iterating, and you'll probably find you're doing that too. So don't be afraid to try something, maybe adjust it later. You do want to avoid the trap of always adjusting and never releasing songs. You know, you could ask yourself, how important is it to get the perfect tone? Whether you're recording, whether you're performing, are you trying to perfectly replicate someone else's tone? On one hand, it is important to generally replicate the type of tone that would be expected in your genre. The most obvious example of this is if you're playing distorted heavy metal, you need distorted tone. You can't be chugging on clean tone guitars. But beyond the obvious, how important is it to replicate someone's tone? It's kind of like songwriting in the way you'll start with an idea, you'll try to write it down, you'll try to play it out, but you might end up not perfectly replicating what you hear in your head, but you create something else. And it's up to you whether you consider that a mistake or a nice creation. Now, is there a perfect way to create a tone? And I don't think there's any just one way. There's a lot of factors. There's your playing style, there's the other musicians you're playing with, what instruments they're using, your amp, your microphone, your pedals, your plugins. In recording, are you double tracking? Are you doubling with synths? Be sure to research from many sources. Not just forums, not just YouTube videos, all of the above. Articles, maybe even magazines, whatever you can get your hands on. Experiment frequently. Try many things to see what works. For example, with me, I wasn't expecting using so many mids to work for me, but I've been liking how it's been sounding lately. And also, don't be afraid to start all over again. You don't have to get so wound up in your amp settings or your plugin settings that you keep trying to tweak them. Feel free to start from zero. But what do you think? Was this helpful? Do you craft your tones in a different way? Be sure to comment down below. Of course, this is YouTube, so I have to say the YouTube things. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the video, print out every frame and mail it. Join the Discord, we talk about guitar there. And if you're looking for something cool to listen to, I'm on all major streaming services, Heisey Productions. I do video game music covers and some originals. And as always, peace.